Well, hello there. Recently, I've been posting some videos of me sight reading through some pieces on my TikTok, and people have had opinions. So I thought we'd talk about it. So these videos that I've been posting lately have been clips of me sight reading through the violin parts of Eine kleine Nacht music, right? Which I played viola on in college, but I never played the violin parts. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to sight read through some things? I'm also in this push to try and get more students now, so I thought I'd do it as sort of a two birds, one stone sort of a situation. So I recorded them. I'm also going to post a full video of me doing it on here, just so you can see that. And I was posting like 1-ish minute clips, right? And there were some comments that I found interesting. So this is the first comment that really got my wheels turning here. It said, "Very good. Watch your pitch, slow down. Accuracy is more important than tempo. Keep practicing and getting better." Which, thank you for the encouragement. I don't necessarily need it, but it's nice to have, right? Now, this is in a section of the first violin part where I'm having some pitch issues, shall we say. I think it's one of the runs where there's some accidentals, and I wasn't playing it very well, right? So on that, I responded on TikTok with a video where I was talking about how there's two different kinds of sight reading, because I do agree about the accuracy and tempo point, right? When I'm working with my students, I always tell them you want to go as slow as you need to play it as closely to accurately as possible. And it's this video that made me realize there's sort of two kinds of sight reading, right? There's that sort of sight reading I work with my students and I teach as like the foundation. This is like the platonic ideal of sight reading, right? You want to go slow, you want to be accurate, because it's always easier to speed something up that you have gotten really, I hate using the word perfectly, but for want of a better term, perfectly at a slow tempo, than it is to fix something that you've got just sort of okay at a fast tempo, right? That's like platonic ideal sight reading. What I'm doing here is a different kind of sight reading that I've sort of decided to call triage sight reading. And I say in that video that I'm doing a little bit of a thing where I know the rules so I can break the rules. Because once you reach a certain point in your career, especially nowadays, if I am going to play something with an orchestra, for example, and I have the piece and I get the music, I'm going to read through it if it's not a piece that I've played before. And what I often do in these situations is sometimes I even put on a recording. I did this with the Beethoven 7th Symphony not that long ago, where I put on a recording and I play along to the recording at the performance tempo to see which spots I can do right away. And that's why I call it triage sight reading, because I'm seeing like, okay, this entire section is very, very playable. I don't need to work that very much. This one I couldn't do at all. We really got to drill here. This one's somewhere in the middle, but that's not the priority. And it's figuring those things out. That's sort of what I'm doing in these videos, where I'm playing it at what is close to a performance tempo and seeing how accurate I can be. Now, that's not necessarily something I recommend my students do in the beginning of their careers, right? But it is something that I encourage them to start doing once they've gotten on and they know a lot of the rules and they know how to fix things. It gets into what I talk about when I talk about the two different modes of practice. It's very similar. You have analytic mode where you find the mistakes, you fix the mistakes, you make it so the mistakes never happen again. But there's almost no performance where you're going to be absolutely perfect. One reason I hate using the word. Then there is Zen mode, where you just allow mistakes to happen and you practice allowing the mistakes to happen. You go through. And what I do encourage my students to do from the beginning with the sight reading exercises that I use with them. I say every time the first run should be Zen mode. If you make mistakes, keep going, let them happen. Then we'll go back and fix it. And I explained in that response that that's what I'm doing in that video. Those are the types of sight reading that that's the sort of sight reading that I'm doing in those videos that this person commented on. And they responded to that with, "Don't put it in the cosmos until you're ready to publish it." Cosmos, I thought was funny. And I just said, I disagree. I think there's value in showing the process. And I do. which is why I post things like that on here sometimes too. I will also state that on that video, somebody else commented, it's the same as playing/singing through a piece for the first time at tempo. It's a life skill and appropriate when you've learned how to sight read correctly. It's a good way of gauging your skill, which is, I like that somebody else was agreeing with me in that sense. So that was the main point about sight reading that these videos brought up. There is another one that's sort of related, and this comment was, this was an interesting time. This is from a different clip of the first violin part of Eine kleine Nachtmusik, where again I'm having some problems. Here it was, I was working a shifting thing, and I was, you know, not as accurate as I could be. And this person responded, because I also mentioned on the that video that I'm looking for students and offer lessons, right? This person said, I mean this with no offense at all, but why are you offering lessons when there are clearly deficits in certain aspects of your technique? Do you mainly play another instrument? And I responded, I'm sight reading here, so it's not going to be anywhere near performance ready, right? And this person responded again, sight reading is a skill that comes with practice and time spent with an instrument, and thus is literally connected to one's ability otherwise. If you're unable to sight read a piece at this level, how are you meant to assist students with pieces you haven't performed before? So on that point, it's not an inaccurate one. It's just, I don't think it's a I don't think it's a mature one, to be honest with you. Because the point of sight reading is not necessarily to play it perfectly the very first time. And it is a skill, right? That's why some of the best people, like a lot of the people who play for the Hollywood studios, are basically sight reading the music because they are that good of sight readers, right? Because they can do that skill. And that's one reason doing that sort of triage form of sight reading is a good thing to do, because it allows you to gauge that, and that's sort of you practicing the skill. And I even say in a comment to that person, yeah, it would be great if I played it perfectly from the get-go, but that's why we practice, to fill in any gaps from what we can't do. And on the point about assisting students with pieces that I haven't performed before, I don't typically do that outside of a masterclass situation where the rules are sort of different, right? You take a different approach in a masterclass setting. If a student has a piece that they want to play that I can't figure out within, a week or so of working on it, I'm not the right teacher for them. And in that case, I refer them to somebody else, which has never happened with a string player in my 20 years of teaching. It's happened with pianists. Okay, I lied. It's happened with cellists, because I'm not a cellist. I'm a violinist and a violist. It's never happened with an upper string player. It's happened with pianists and with cellists, but not with voice, viola, or violin. This does bring us to an area that is kind of an interesting discussion that I was actually having with a student not that long ago, because I've been playing violin for almost 30 years. And people hear that, and they might have a different view of my skill set than what is completely accurate. Now, this isn't to say that I'm not some sort of novice, or that I am not a very good teacher or a very good violinist. It's about where the focus is, because that 30 years, it's how you use that amount of time, right? Because I am not on the same level as somebody who plays in the violin section of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, for example, because that was never my focus. That was never where I put my time in. My goal was always teaching. So like I said, it's about where you put the time in. I mean, if you just think about the schedule of me versus somebody, let's just stick with somebody in the LA Phil section, right? They are continuing sort of the schedule that I had when I was in college, where you're in a practice room for hours a day working on your stuff, right? I am not in a practice room for hours a day working on this advanced literature. I'm working on my teaching plans. I'm working on the pieces for my students. I'm working on new ways to teach my students. I'm doing research on new techniques and adjusting everything, and it's a constant updating thing with me. It's just a different focus of your skill set, right? Also, different things come naturally to different people, right? I've never really considered myself a very good solo string player. I am much more of an orchestral ensemble player, just by nature, I think. I don't know. I've always just felt more at home in an ensemble. To me, it's actually kind of similar to how different instruments come naturally to different people, right? Like string instruments come very naturally to me, brass does not. I have friends who are the exact opposite. Brass comes very naturally to them. When they did string methods, it was awful. The thing about playing an instrument is that it is a skill set that needs nurturing. And honestly, I am out of shape in a lot of ways. And that's part of why I was posting these sight reading videos, was to encourage myself to sort of get back into shape. Because the thing is, I haven't been playing very much in these past few years at all. I haven't played with an orchestra consistently since I moved to Los Angeles, and that's been 7 years. So my skills are a little rusty in some areas. And sort of circling back to the point of what are you going to do if a student brings you a piece that you've never performed before, it also comes in, when you're teaching, it also comes into the kinds of students that you're teaching. Most of my students have been beginning to intermediate string players, right? If we're going to put it in like a Suzuki frame, which is one of the easiest ways to gauge things, most of my students have been with me in books 1 and 2. I haven't often gotten a student into book 3 because timing and just where they are. They stop taking lessons. I end up having to something with my schedule, just things like that. If I were teaching at sort of a collegiate level, that would be a different frame of student that I'm teaching. But I'm in a public sphere where I'm getting students that are mostly beginners to intermediates, which I love. Teaching beginning string players is one of my favorite things to do. Link in the description if you would like some instruction on that. So those were just a couple of things that were on my mind in response to these sight reading videos that I've been posting. I am going to put them on the Tube of You as well, the full length, not the clips, so that you can see for yourself how accurate and or inaccurate I am in them. I'm really looking forward to seeing the comments when I start posting the one where I read through the cello part on my viola, because that broke my brain a little bit. So make sure you, if you have found this of any interest, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to be much more consistent in posting things these days. I'm also working on this lovely little program I'm calling my Classroom, which is where you can follow along at your own pace with learning guides and everything. It's basically my violin lessons without me gatekeeping you. So if you've always wanted to learn how to play violin, but you're not able to commit to a consistent time every week for a lesson, or you learn better on your own with some guidance, that's good for that. So again, link in the thingy. And may you have a happy whatever it is, wherever you are, and whenever you happen to be. Morning, afternoon, whatever. See you later.